welcome to the Smart Publishing Impact Series. I'm Renée Lautermilch, Chief Editor at Smart Publishing, and this is the podcast where we explore all things writing, publishing, and the impact of storytelling. In each episode, I'll share insights and strategies to help you navigate the book journey, whether you're writing, publishing, or already an author. Plus, you'll hear from inspiring authors who are using their book to change lives. And if you're passionate about storytelling and ready to make an impact, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smart Publishing Impact Series. I am your host, Renée Lautermilch, and Chief Editor at Smart Publishing. And this is a solo episode. I've had a couple of really great guest episodes, and Jonathan was supposed to come on here today because we're supposed to start recording these together, which will be a lot of fun. It'll be very different. But he ended up having a last minute session that he had to be on. So we will start next week. And this is episode 55, and it is on building an ecosystem for your book. So what is that all about? We're going to get all into it. So I will, start this off with some comments that I've made in the past, particularly if you want to get a really good episode that is maybe a good starter episode for where I'm going to head in this episode. If you go back to the episode about treating your business like a book, I can't remember off the top of my head which episode number it is, but I have an episode on why you should treat your business like a book. That is a really, really great foundational episode for this one. It's not absolutely necessary. You don't absolutely have to listen to it to get the context of what I'm talking about here, but it puts a lot of really helpful building blocks in place for mindset. So I'll start here. We have a lot of people who come to us who want to write a book. And I think where, that stems from is one, most of us would love to write a book because we have things that we have thought heavily about or experience that we have. We have things that we want to share with the world. And most of us have read a book. And so it's on a lot of people's bucket list to write a book sometime in their lifetime. It's sort of seen as this really big accomplishment. It's seen as this huge achievement. And that's great. I love that there are so many people out there who want to write a book. I think it is a very worthwhile effort. I'm going to pause here. If you've really thought through why you want to write a book and what you want the outcome to be. And most people have not done that yet. So if you are someone who wants to write a book, I would encourage you to start there, because we see a lot of people who get to the point of publishing and getting their book out there, and then all their expectations that they had are not met, and they're severely disappointed. And, we have a lot of those folks who actually come back to us, not back necessarily. They come to us. We've never met most of them. It's the first time meeting most of them, but they want to do a relaunch. And that all happens because the intention of writing a book and the goal for writing a book wasn't thought out from the very, very beginning and wasn't designed. And so we will tell people, look, if you want to write a book just to write a book and it's a passion project for you, absolutely, you can totally do that. In fact, for a lot of children's book authors, that's really a motivation there. But if you're going to invest the time and the money and you want to be very intentional about how you use your time and your money, well, then let's pause and let's think about publishing a book that accomplishes something that will be helpful for you. So if you're a business owner, it might be helpful for you in simply increasing your credibility with your customers, your prospects, your team, your colleagues throughout the industry. It might be a positioning thing. It might be more direct as a lead generator, something that generates leads specifically for you. It might be because you want to get speaking opportunities and you want to grow that way. So first think about what outcome would you like to get from your book? And I'm telling you, regardless of the outcome, you're going to need an ecosystem to support it. So this is where you got to start thinking like a business owner. If you're already a business owner, you should be thinking about your book like a business owner. If you're not, you really need to think about it as a business owner. Again, that's why I said going back and listening to that treating your book as a business episode will be really, really helpful for the mindset around this, because if we start a business, we want that business to result in revenue. We want that business to result in certain things that happen. Same thing with a book. So we can't just publish a book and put it out there with the millions of other books and keep our fingers crossed and hope that it's going to go viral, because it's not. I hate to break it to you, it's not going to go viral. People are publishing books every single day. There is so much noise in the marketplace. You need to be very intentional with why you're publishing your book and how you're going to leverage it after it's published, and not just sort of birth your book into the abyss and it ends up in BPS, which is like CPS, Child Protective Services. It ends up in Book Protective Services because you design, you gave birth to it, but then you didn't take care of it after it was born. A lot of people do that. They publish the book and then they do nothing else with it, expecting that it will somehow do something on its own. And that's where your ecosystem comes in. Your ecosystem should really have a foundation of a CRM. If you don't know what a CRM is, it just stands for customer relationship management. So it's a system where you can collect people's emails, you can send emails to them, you are collecting a list, and you're able to communicate with those people over time, which is great because you have control over that list. And it's not going to rely on something like Facebook or Instagram, which I've seen people where their entire list, they've never created an email list, so their entire set of followers are on social media, and then they get locked out of Facebook for a whole month. Something that they wrote puts them in Facebook jail, and now their business, their whole ability to connect with people is undermined because you don't own the platform. In this case, you own the platform. In other CRMs, you can text message people. And really good CRMs, you can do additional things like integrate your website. That they have a website builder, and so you can integrate your website on there, which you should have a website. If you have a book, you should have a website for your book with, if nothing else, an ability to get people's contact information and then send them to where they can purchase your book. Even better, you can have downloadable resources and things on there to add value, contact information, forms where people can get in touch with you, those sorts of things. And then even better, if you have something that is like a course that you want to sell, that is an upsell from your book, a CRM that is able to handle that. At Smart Publishing, we use a CRM. It's called ARIA. That's actually our daughter's name, but it's a whole acronym. It stands for something. I won't get into it, but it's called ARIA CRM, and it does all of those things. It's what we use with our authors, and it is a one-stop shop for everything. It even acts like Hootsuite as well. So it does your social media post for you too, if you want that done. So what does an ecosystem for your book look like? I'll detail a little bit from my first book. So I've written several books. My first book, before I ever even went into publishing, my first book that I self-published on my own, Leading Through Love, was very intentionally a professional branding book. So I knew when I wrote that one, it was going to come out of my passion for the subject matter, but two, it was something that was going to set me apart as a very high value leader that organizations, when I lived in the corporate world, would really value have working for them or want to have working for them. So that was my goal. I absolutely achieved that goal. I was able to make it to the highest point of my career aspiration. I was able to make it from a director level all the way up to a C level. And so it was very much accomplished what I wanted because I was very intentional about it. It was something that I gave to CEOs of companies, HR leaders, especially in the organizations I was working at. I would always gift it to them. And I'm telling you, if you're someone who has thought about professional branding before, it really, really sets you apart. They see you as somebody who is capable of doing really big things when you're not just a published author, but a best-selling published author as well, which my book had hit number one in multiple categories when it was released and stayed there for a couple of weeks. So my ecosystem, I had a website where when I was promoting my book release, I was sending people to that website where they could sign up to get messaged when the book was available. And so I had a whole automatic system that would do that. I grew a mailing list out of it. And then I also had worked into my book QR codes where people could scan a page and get access to a free resource that I talked about within the book. So they could just, take their little phone camera, scan the QR code, boop, it would go right there. But of course, to download the free resource, they have to enter their contact information. So I'm capturing their information that way. That sets you up to do a number of things. If I wrote a follow-up book to Leading Through Love, I could communicate back out with them. I already know that they're interested in my content, so I could communicate that back out to them. It also gives me the ability to market. Let's just say in this case, since it was professional branding, I did not have an upsell, but let's just say that I released an upsell course. Now I've had this list that I can follow back up with to encourage to, buy that course. We have had people where they had that as an upsell. And we always say, you're not going to make money off of your book, but you can make plenty of money from your book. We have seen authors make, tens of thousands of dollars from their upsell opportunities that come out of their book, whether that's we've got somebody who's doing live coaching that has been contracted by multiple organizations to do live coaching with students and with staff, all from the premise of his book and all from his book's ecosystem. He's actually building a course right now, which we know that he'll be very successful with because he's been very successful with the higher ticket live coaching and training that he does. But it would allow me to come back and advertise that product to people on my list. Now, if you're just releasing a book and you don't have any of this, Amazon's not going to give you the data into who's buying it. You're not going to get their name. You're not going to get their email address. You're not going to get anything more than the country they live in and what they bought. Did they buy the paperback format, the hardcover format, or the Kindle format? That is the only data you'll get. And it doesn't matter what publishing platform you're on, you're not going to get that data any other way. So the only way to do it is have a built-in ecosystem within your book, and that you're also using on the front end on social before your launch to drive attention and contact information into your launch so that you've got that to be able to do that with. Now, your ecosystem, it can consist of whatever you need. So if your objective is to get more speaking opportunities, well, then you could have, we've had people do this, QR codes that lead to their website where they get information captured. And there's actually videos of them speaking about certain topics that are within the book. And so now they get to consume multimedia content. Now they're getting more than just what they're reading in the book. They're seeing you actually being a speaker. And then that's great if some of these people are just, say, podcast hosts or individuals who make decisions on bringing speakers into mastermind get-togethers, keynote speaking events, conferences, those sorts of things. So that gets you more exposure and better exposure that way. You can always have, a speaker form on your website, but really the best thing that you can do if speaking is the opportunity you want, is to be able to showcase what you would look like as a speaker, which is through that video content, and getting your book into the right people's hands and getting on podcasts. Just a few episodes ago, I had a podcasting expert talk about why the foundation for speaking should be getting on podcasts, and more podcasts. Go back, listen to that episode with Mike Searock and from That One Agency, and you'll get some really, really great information from him about that. So again, you're based on what your outcome, what you want it to be, really, really, really plays into how you build your ecosystem, but your ecosystem needs to support it. And then without your ecosystem, you're going to have a really hard time of accomplishing what you want to accomplish, because you got to build an audience, you got to build followers, and you have to have the ability to follow up with them. And you have to have the ability to be able to offer things to them as well. And ultimately, that's what your book's ecosystem does for you. So, if you've never used a CRM before, don't worry. It's something where there's a lot of options out there that are pretty easy to learn and easy to use. We ourselves, we have this whole system called Marketer in Your Pocket, where it's everything you need to know to use to build your ecosystem and use your ecosystem. And it really fail proofs the entire process. But what I just want to sort of end this episode with is just a reinforcement of how important it is to get really clear on what your intentions are for writing a book. And then if it's not just a passion play and it's that you want the book to do something for you, you want it to accomplish something for you, then absolutely, you've got to have an ecosystem, and you have to work that strategy into your book itself so that the book is really intentional in how it accomplishes the outcome that you want. And you can't just have the book has to lead people somewhere, and a CRM that has website building capability and lead collection. Obviously, all CRMs have lead collection ability, is the way to go. You got to have one. It's just part of it if you're serious about really leveraging your book. So that's everything that I have today. When I come back next week for episode 56, it should have Jonathan on it. We are going to just carve out a weekly time where we do this. This episode, all episodes come out on Thursday. I record them all on Wednesdays. We'll probably end up carving out time on Tuesdays or something, because we're both always usually pretty busy on Wednesdays, and it's hard to match up time. So as I always say, please feel free to reach out to me. I am mostly on Facebook. You can find me, Renée Lautermilch, Lautermilch. I'm the only one in the world, so I'm the only one that will pull up. You can also find me at smartpublishingservices.com, or if you want to shoot me an email, Renee@smartpublishingservices.com. That is Renee with 2 E's at the end, Renee. And also, I would be so honored and appreciative if you would take just 60 seconds to rate and review this podcast. The more of those that we get, the more this podcast gets out in front of a bigger audience of people who could benefit from the education and the information that we provide. So as always, thank you so much for your time this week. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And as I always say, keep writing your story, because the world needs your voice. Take care now.